Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. In this episode, we've got a submission from Jaysic, who plays as Britonia battling BobbyTheWolfKing's Empire. So let's start off with army composition. Over at Britonia's corner, we've got Leon Kerr in charge, alongside 5 spearmen at arms, 3 men at arms, 6 units of peasant bowmen, 4 units of Knights of the Realm, and 1 unit of Pegasus Knights. You'll notice that 3 of the peasant bowmen are actually ranked up to rank 1. Just a quick note, at rank 1, that does help with leadership, melee attack, and melee defense, but at rank 2, it actually starts to help with missile damage as well. So maybe a little bit better management with the ranking would have helped. And over at the Empire's corner, with BobbyTheWolfKing, we've got the General of the Empire in charge, alongside 2 spearmen with shields, 4 swordsmen, 4 crossbowmen, and 4 demigryph knights with halberds. You'll notice the 2 spearmen and the 2 spearmen with shields are all ranked up to rank 1, and 3 of the swordsmen are ranked up to rank 1 as well, which is great because, again, it helps with leadership, melee attack, and melee defense, and these guys will probably be seeing a lot of action at the front lines. So, let's get started. So, straight off the bat, let's talk about the army deployment first. You'll see that Jaysic has kind of deployed his troops, hoping that Bobby will have deployed his troops there as well, maybe looking for an engagement in this general area. But instead, Bobby's gone on and deployed over here. And what you're going to see happen is Bobby pushes down this way, and Jaysic actually pushes this way as well, forcing a melee engagement here. Now, in the meanwhile, both players had something of a flanking maneuver planned. Bobby looks like he wants to shift down this way through the woods, and then flank in and get into the rear of Britonia, hoping that they take the bait and fall in there. Whereas Jaysic was actually looking to push down through the woodlands on either side with his Knights of the Realm, and then push in as sort of a pincer movement, hoping the battle would take place somewhere in this area. Unfortunately, as you can see, Jaysic is sort of, don't want to call it taking the bait, but he is humoring Bobby and is headed towards this general area for the engagement. On this side, in the meanwhile, both Knights of the Realm and 2 units of these demigryph knights are shifting in towards each other. So while they're hidden right now, they are going to discover each other if they keep moving towards each other. And the other 2 demigryph knights with halberds are on this end here. Don't think they're hidden from Jaysic's viewpoint, but I guess the plan is to ideally sort of create a pincer motion of his own as well. Now, you'll see that Jaysic has noticed the spearmen and swordsmen are kind of going through the woodlands as well, so he is pulling back his 2 Knights of the Realm that were in the woods there. He is pulling them out there for now. Later on, he will be pushing them further this way, sort of predicting, I guess, this engagement over here, maybe planning on looping around and creating a flanking maneuver that way. Let's speed it up a little bit. Pretty soon, these units are going to notice each other, but before that happens, I do want to point out something interesting over here. Jaysic's overall shape with his formation, it's still forming up right now, but as you can see, up front here, we've got a line of spearmen, again acting as the meat of the army, preparing for a head-on engagement. Right behind them, we've got this line of peasant bowmen, so they've got the good range attribute. It's a decent idea to put them behind, especially since the fighting is starting a little bit later. These guys are going to be marching in. You don't want to interfere with your front lines as your bows are sort of falling back. So this is a perfectly fair placement. But most interesting is the placement of these halberdiers. You'll see one's ending up here, one over here, and the third one over there. Now this is good placement because obviously Jaysic knows that there is a flanking maneuver inbound. Demigryph knights are almost guaranteed. Just going to take a moment to point out. So this is when this region has been uncovered. So just going to pause it so we don't miss anything here. But as I was saying, Jaysic knows that there is a flanking maneuver coming up. Demigryph knights are almost guaranteed with the Empire. So with this sort of placement, with this 1, 2, 3 placement of his halberdiers, he's able to keep them ready for a quick movement in case of a flanking maneuver. If it comes in from the back, they're able to shift back and form a lineup. If it's coming in from the side, they're able to sort of steady themselves and get ready to deal with the flanking maneuver. Or if they're coming from both sides, they can sort of separate, and whichever side needs more support, this back unit can go ahead and join and help. So this is a good layout, and keeping your specialized units out of the way like this, it helps because they're not going to be running through your formation as long as you give them, curved commands. It's not going to be running through your formation, they're not going to disrupt things, and they're able to respond more quickly to an evolving situation. Now, on the topic of evolving situations, as I mentioned on this flank, these units have just discovered each other. So what's going to end up happening is Bobby feels that it's time to pull the trigger right away. Makes sense. His ploy has been uncovered, so he's pushing his Demigryph Knights into the backs of Bretonnia. Meanwhile, Jaysic has decided that he wants to intercept these knights, and he is going to push forward with these Knights of the Realm and engage. Now, as I mentioned, he has been also pushing his Knights of the Realm from that woodland there to this side, possibly in a flanking maneuver, but now he decides to pull them in as well for an engagement. Now, this is not a good idea. Initially, with this drop in morale that you're going to see, it might seem like an interesting idea or a good move, but this matchup is heavily in favor of the Demigryph Knights. This is because the Demigryph Knights, as you'll see on the unit card, they're anti-large, and they're armor-piercing, and they're armored. Also, their melee attack and melee defense stats are both in the 30s, so they're decent fighters as well. Now, obviously, flanking and surrounding them is going to do some morale damage, but you can see already it's the Knights of the Realm that are really hurting, because they, as you can see on the left again, they have armor and they have shields, but they're anti-infantry, and their melee attack and melee defense isn't all that great. Their charge bonus, though, is amazing. So, putting the Knights of the Realm in this situation is not a good idea, as you can clearly see by looking at the health bars. Now, these Pegasus Knights are also flying in, and they're also not a good idea in this situation because, like the Knights of the Realm, these Pegasus Knights are also, they're armored and shielded, they're anti-infantry. Their charge bonus is great as well, they're better at their melee attack, but overall, in this sort of matchup, it's not in their favor. Now again, it might look like this is going well for Bretonnia because these Demigryph Knights have run away, but these guys aren't shattered. They will come back, and let's slow it down for a second. These guys have killed 38 Knights of the Realm, maybe some Pegasus Knights in there as well. These guys have killed 22 before shattering. Meanwhile, if you look at the Knights of the Realm, they've killed maybe 1, 3, 1, 3, so not that many. Obviously, large amounts of the killing was probably done by Leon Kerr here. He's armor-piercing and armored, causes terror, so that was a good call. But it would have been much better to let the Demigryph Knights move further in, intercept them with the Knights of the Realm after the fact, somewhere back here or here, and then pull the Halberdiers in to actually take care of them, and then pull the Knights of the Realm away again. I say that because using your high mobility units for interception is a great move. You don't want to give Demigryph Knights a full charge into the back lines of your army, for obvious reasons. So instead, you pull in your own high mobility units, in this case the Knights of the Realm, to intercept, make sure they're not able to get through, but you don't want to keep them in the fight for very long because they will fall apart. Now, it looks like Bobby, sensing blood, has decided to send his Demigryph Knights from the far flank in down this way. So let's go back to normal speed here. You see these Demigryph Knights that were earlier routing have already come back into the fight, took a few more kills, and now they're broken again. And this is somewhere where Bobby actually makes a quick mistake. These Demigryph Knights should have actually chased after these Knights of the Realm, possibly breaking them, maybe causing a decent amount of damage, and then pulled back. Instead, and you'll see here, Bobby decides to go after the Pegasus Knights and Leon Kerr. Again, the Pegasus Knights, they could have been taken down, sure, but Leon Kerr is a hard matchup. He is going to cause some pain, and it looks like a little bit of indecision is happening for Bobby there, and now he's sort of pulling back this way. But again, Jaysic's made a mistake, and he's engaging as well with his Knights of the Realm. These Knights of the Realm would have done much better, especially now that the front lines are moving forward, had they just come here and even camped out here, or camped out here. Because you'll see, slow it down for a second, you'll see back there in this engagement, as I said already, not a good one for these Knights of the Realm. Especially with the General of the Empire up front dropping these buffs, hold the line, stand your ground, all these leadership and melee and armor-piercing bonuses is going in favor even more so for the Empire. Meanwhile, had the Knights been over here to this flank, or back here even, it would have forced Bobby to reform his lines. Right now, he's got a unit of spearmen here, and one over here, and a line of spearmen back here. So he is ready for a quick response on the flanks, but if these knights had been standing here, he may have had to readjust his lines. He may have formed up his spearmen all over here, or he may have split them up, allowing for some type of a funnel one way or another for the Knights of the Realm. The mind games are very important, so just by simply placing the Knights of the Realm somewhere in this region, it could have caused Bobby to just get a little uncertain and reposition his troops, cause a little bit of chaos, and thus assist this forward push that's happening right now. Also, had Bobby not readjusted his lines for the incoming flanking maneuver, these swordsmen and these ranged units, they're all ready for the picking. Because, again, Knights of the Realm are anti-infantry. They would have made quick work, caused some serious damage, and had they come in from the rears, if the spearmen had moved out of the way, obviously hard to predict what would have happened, they would have caused significant amounts of morale damage as well. So that is definitely where these Knights of the Realm should have been. Instead, they're slowly dying off in the back here, as these Demigryph Knights are doing some serious work on them. So let's try to keep our eye on everything here. As these spearmen come forward, you'll see that Bobby's been baited in or tempted into the attack as well, so now the swordsmen are all moving forward, as are the ranged units, and the spearmen are holding steady. Good move. It's good to keep your units in reserve and ready for, for anything that might happen. Meanwhile, you'll see that Jaysic is focus firing on these two swordsman units. Great call. Now, the reason why I say it's a great call is because you'll see these the units' morale is dropping extremely quickly. This is going to help. As soon as the engagement begins, as soon as the melee starts and these units collide, you're going to get giant holes in the enemy front lines. Meanwhile, it looks like Bobby is targeting the enemy, slow it down, the enemy range units. The attempt here, as I can guess at best, is to drop morale enough among enough of these units to cause a mass rout. However, it's not doing the best job. You'll see some of these units are going to start giving up soon, but some of these peasant bowmen, because they're ranked up especially, so I have to give it to the leadership bonus there is probably helping quite a bit, they're not going to give up too easily, and Jaysic is pulling them back just out of range of this fire before they all start to break and create or cause a mass rout. This range fire would have been a lot more helpful had it taken down maybe some of these men-at-arms with polearms, but the attempt was clever against these ranged units. However, it just didn't work out because Jaysic pulled them back very quickly. At that moment, it should have been an immediate reaction on Bobby's part to retarget some of these frontline units and maybe try to break them. Now, meanwhile, at the back here, we see it's all going to hell for Bretonnia. All of these Knights of the Realm have given up, and apart from Leoncoeur and these Knights of the Realm, it's all fallen apart. Pretty soon, Leoncoeur is going to give up as well. And meanwhile, these Demigryph Knights they've ranked up, these ones, and they've got 48 kills, and these ones have 24 kills and are close to ranking up as well. So, as I said, not the best engagement for Bretonnia. Back to the front. One thing I've noticed that Jaysic does a fair amount of is actually order attacks with a move order. So you'll notice that, for example, right now, this move order is forcing the spearmen forward, and they're actually going to march into any enemy that they intercept. And that's not a good call. I just want to mention that right now before things get insane. You want to target the enemy or create a hard group and then right-click on a single enemy unit, which will have them move forward in formation and target the appropriate unit that's right next to them. Simply telling them to move forward like that in the hopes of a move attack, they don't actually charge, so they miss out on the bonuses that comes alongside that. So just a quick sidebar. Now, back to what's actually going on here. You'll see, as I mentioned, that ranged fire at the beginning has broken these two troops, these two units almost right away. These guys are already well into running away. These guys have just, or are just about to start. Let's go back to normal speed. It would have been a great idea for these spearmen to immediately flip back and help free up these halberdiers, and then they could have sort of cascaded down the sides and assisted the battles as they go on. Meanwhile, at the back, again, we see these Knights of the Realm constantly. Jaysic keeps pulling them back into this engagement, At one point, ideally looking at the numbers and seeing the overall situation, hopefully, in the future you can keep in mind, if that's what's happening, it's time to pull these guys out and get them involved where they are best. It's important to keep in mind what your units are best at countering, and in the case of Knights of the Realm, it's anti-infantry. You pull them in and take care of some of these range units, or just help out, help with an envelopment movement, or taking care of units that are routing to make sure they stay out of the picture. Also, you'll see that these spearmen are being charged into, well, they're being told to move back here, so they're going to engage anything that falls in their path. Unfortunately, that happens to be these spearmen that that Bobby had pulled up forward as well. So again, it would have been more wise if at least one or two of these units had stayed back and assisted these halberdiers, get them freed up, and also to actually directly order where to attack, because that gives you more control and makes sure that you're engaging the correct units, as opposed to hoping that the move order goes the right way. And again, they actually charge into and attack the enemy if you tell them to attack rather than simply move. Now meanwhile, at the back here, these Demigryph Knights and the General of the Empire were able to free themselves of this onslaught, and they're now coming in to perform their flanking maneuver after all. And really good move by Jaysic here. This line of archers, as opposed to staying in that line and trying to shoot down as much as possible, Jaysic has actually spread them out really nicely into various sort of segments, and also use the Pegasus Knights to intercept one of these incoming units. So that there is a good use of interception. You don't want these three cavalry units, well, the two cavalry units and the general, just running around your back lines. And this spread is a great idea, because now, as these Demigryph Knights engage one unit and the general engages another unit, all of these range units are free to focus fire down on the Demigryph Knights. And look how quickly this unit of Demigryph Knights drops now. A bunch of peasants is going to do what Knights of the Realm couldn't. So fast, they begin to rout. So really great move there, Jaysic. Love that. Good timing, good awareness. You saw that coming in and right away responded by spreading these range units out and focus fire. Again, great call, having them run away, and yes, it's not like they're dead, they might come back, but you're keeping them at bay, and that's a great move. That's a great move. I think, there's definitely something to learn from there. However, at the same time, I mean, again, now I guess you're sending the Knights of the Realm in to just do that extra bit of morale damage and take care of this Halberdier unit, or this Demigryph Knight unit, that is, by the way, up to rank 3 now. But again, they would have been better had they just kept going straight and engaged these Empire Spearmen from the back. Of course, you don't want to take them from the front, or even just push these range units away, scared them off a little bit. But I'm just beating a dead horse here. Those Knights of the Realm had better uses, and they were just mismanaged in this battle, I would say. Also, now Leoncoeur is just sitting idled there. It's okay to have a little bit of miss micro, obviously, but now is a great time to bring him swinging into some of these battles, because, especially this one here, because he's got the causes terror trait because of the mount, and just having him swoop over your battle lines right now could have broken a couple of units, and obviously you drop him in and cause some serious damage. But again, over here we've got the general, trying to take down these peasants. Meanwhile, back here, these archers are trying to provide support in this melee over here. A lot's going on, a lot of chaos. This battle has really spread out from what was going to be a pretty head-on collision into this really disparate set of engagements. Overall, things are going pretty well now. It's a pretty smooth breakdown, just some idling, which is a bit of a problem. Meanwhile, Leoncoeur has come down and is taking care of the general. I would say that's a decent move there. He was causing a bit of trouble. Leoncoeur has the upper hand there. He's, armor-piercing, etc. The general is armored and shielded, but he doesn't stand a chance, I don't think, against Leoncoeur. And now, rounding Leoncoeur and bringing him into the backs of these spearmen. And I believe, yeah, there you go. See, they start to get terrified, and they break instantly. So, great move there. As I was saying, it could have happened a little bit sooner, but not the end of the world. It's trickling down some fire onto these spearmen and these bowmen who are trying to reform, trying to keep them at bay. And reforming the lines a little bit as well. You'll see, trying to pull back these spearmen and recreate these lines, and then push forward again. Not entirely necessary, but, you know, it looks like Bobby was also reforming his lines and pushing forward. So it's funny to see this kind of organization happening so late into the battle. But, you know, it does help, don't get me wrong, especially when morale is so low. Pulling back like that and reforming lines helps with morale because your friends are protecting your flanks, friends nearby, protected flanks, these all help leadership. And when morale is so low, that can be essential. So, you know, good on both players for forming those lines up. And right away, though, Jaysic is right back at it, focus firing and trying to pull down morale and trying to get these units to break. Meanwhile, Leoncoeur, as you may have seen, sort of pulled away off to the side and is now looping back from the side to engage. And again, with some of these low morale units, the terror aspect might really kick in and frighten these units right off. Meanwhile, again, with the move order, these guys are just sort of moving at their fair pace, and that's what they're going to keep doing. Had they been targeted and told to engage, they would have charged in and caused just a little bit more damage at the beginning. But Leoncoeur just having a field day now, just chewing away at some of these units, terrifying them, bouncing around. This is really the end of the battle, more or less. Time to call a GG. Everyone, I think, has given up. We've got the General of the Empire. He's not going to do much on his own, but he's, you know, sure, he's trying to rally the troops, but not much to go with there. So we'll just skip ahead and run to the end of the battle. You'll see Leoncoeur keeps flying around, causing a little bit of damage here and there. Some of these units, they start to reform, but then they break again because, again, your friends are routing. You've had so many casualties, you're going to start giving up and run to the four corners of the map. And there you have it, a Pyrrhic victory for Jaysic. Now, let's take a look at the overall sort of end results here. And you'll see that it was a decent battle overall, and the thing that stands out most is poor cavalry management on Jaysic's part. 2 kills, 2, 1, 9, 13 for the Pegasus Knights. These guys were not used to the best of their ability. Had they been charging through some of the infantry units on the Empire's side, guaranteed these numbers would be a lot higher, and also some of the deaths on these spearmen at arms and these men at arms with pole arms would have been a lot lower. They would have come out on top, more of them would have gone home to their families, but unfortunately, because these Knights of the Realm were too busy dealing with these Demigryph Knights, they were quickly slaughtered. So it's very important to keep in mind what your enemy has and how you're using your units against those enemy units, because, you know, on the contrary, these Demigryph Knights had a field day. 97 kills, 44, 22, 39. Now, at the end of the day, most of them died off because, again, a little bit of poor management, keeping them in these fights for too long. Had they been cycle charging and doing some hit-and-run tactics, they would have maybe lasted a little bit better. But 97 kills, 39, 44, 22, all on cavalry. So really, if you look at that engagement, these numbers kind of tell you everything that went down in that engagement in the right flank with the horses, with the cavalry. Meanwhile, good use of range units on both sides, focus fire on one, trying to break units, and the sort of spread fire onto enemy range units, trying to break and rout, sort of cause a mass rout rather. So overall, good use of units, but really that cavalry usage caused the big fall for Jaysic, which made this a Pyrrhic victory. Had those Knights of the Realm instead engaged with the enemy infantry as they're made to, their anti-infantry units, guaranteed this battle would have been a lot better for Jaysic. Now, with all that said, I think there was a lot to learn from here, and to focus down on one topic to pick out from here, it's countering. Learn what your units are best against, and make sure that that's what you're using these units for primarily. Obviously, if, for example, you've got a bunch of Knights of the Realm and the enemy for some reason doesn't have any infantry, right, you're not going to set your Knights of the Realm aside to charge infantry that doesn't exist. But primarily, keep in mind what these units are best for, and then use them for that purpose. Only in desperate situations should a unit be used where it's not best used. For example, using Knights of the Realm to intercept some of these Demigryph Knights, great move. Yes, clever, good to stop that charge from coming in. However, using all of the Knights of the Realm to permanently engage with these Demigryph Knights, bad move. Again, keep an eye on the stats and the specific abilities and the traits of your units, because that can make or break a battle. To be honest, had the battle awareness not been there to spread those ranged units out and focus fire on the Demigryph Knights, some of those ranged units probably would have given up very quickly. You would have seen those ranged units rout, and then the Demigryph Knights would be free to charge into the melee units, and it could have gone terribly for Bretonnia. In fact, Jaysic could have lost had that quick decision-making hadn't happened, or had he simply missed the engagement coming in from the back there. So again, overall, great battle, great use of movement, nice attempt there to try pincering Bobby right from the beginning, but he did deploy off to the side, managed to adjust pretty quickly to that. It's just a matter of making sure you use your units the way they're supposed to be used first, and then using them for secondary or tertiary objectives. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this battle replay. As always, this is a collaborative learning experience, so if you saw something that I missed, or if you have an interesting sort of tidbit or factoid you'd like to throw in there, make sure you drop it in the comments. Otherwise, for other Total War content, make sure that you subscribe to this channel and keep submitting your battles. I've got tons to go through, but I'm loving watching them all. They're all great. I will cover them. Hopefully pick up the pace very soon, but apart from that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.